Give me about 3 seconds and we'll go from black to the lead. Hey, greetings. Welcome back to the Soul Citizens for the show, The Soul Producers. And the producers are back. We had our inaugural premiere, very first episode during the month of May, where we got to, what did we talk about? We talked about the people versus Chris Roberts, right, guys?
Yes, yes,
Right.
indeed.
Yeah. And the people are still, they haven't come with their pitchforks and and torches yet, but I think that they're still supporting
tempt
Chris
them.
Roberts. Don't tempt them. Don't tempt them.
They got him in the
Okay.
back.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, once again, thank you guys. As you guys know, we started doing these Soul Producers as a way to say thank you to our community, particularly those who financially support us and support us with their presence every week at all of our shows. We just want to say a special thank you to all of you. And we do these shows as a sidebar to our regular Sunday show, where, if you don't know, Captain Serious Fun, Fast Cart FC are both the co-producers on the Soul Citizens, and we talk about the different shows and ideas that we do in our group settings and in our community settings. But this is a conversation for us to have and getting our thoughts. And just like the last video that we did, both Captain Serious Fun and Fast Cart are unaware of the topic that I picked. So you're getting their first reaction to the subject. Even the title that you're seeing right now, they are just seeing this title for the first time. And so we're going to watch a video. It's about 10 minutes long. This is going to go a little bit longer today, guys. I know we say we're going to try to make these videos 10 to 15 minutes. Ain't happening today. It's probably going to be more like a 20, 25-minute video, because I know these brothers are going to have something to say about the subject matter that I'm bringing. But we want to talk about this Star Citizen keeping the community. One of the things that I'm just bounce this off of you guys and tell me if you've heard similar things. One of the things that I've heard people come in who start playing Star Citizen is they talk about, particularly about how friendly and nice the community is. That the community is often very helpful, not as quote unquote toxic. That they feel comfortable being in the community in comparison to other gaming communities. Captain Serious Fun, I'll start with you. What's been your response to that? Do you agree? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I think that's true in multiple ways, right? There's multiple facets to that diamond. I think that there are lots of straightforward opportunities just out in the wild
Mhm.
To gain access to great information. I see it happen on Twitch with Twitch streamers of Star Citizen. I see it happen on Reddit. Um, I don't spend as much time on Spectrum, but I see it happen in those spaces. But it's also institutionalized. There is a mentorship program in Star Citizen where people can make themselves available to help players start out. And so you have it both within RSI, they've created a structure for it, but you also see it happen naturally out in the world. And it's been my experience, not only with Soul Citizens, but just broadly, that people are excited to see you excited about something they're excited about. So there's a lot of positivity right now in that regard.
Yeah. FC, how about you?
Yeah, coming in from a different angle, this community is much more inclusive than the other communities or gaming communities that I've been a part of. You see people from all over, from all walks of life, and it's great to see. And Griffin started off saying that people are comfortable in here. Sometimes we get too comfortable, if you know what I mean. But that's not always a bad thing. It's great to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it is unique. All demographics, ages, I mean, just a little bit of everything that's a part of the communities. And it's interesting because quite often that happens when people only join an org, right? But there's
Right.
this cross org thing. Some people in orgs, some people aren't in orgs, whatever, but there's still that thing that communicates. So this topic today is about keeping the community. And I'm saying this, and please, I don't want you to think that I'm saying that that we have to be the police of Star Citizens community, but I think we do have a hand in the community in some form, and of course, Cloud Imperium Games, the company itself has some say, definitely has some say in relation to how the community is managed and how things happen within the community. So I want to kind of show you guys a video. I decided to go back and pull a video from. I was going to pull a recent video, and this video was like a video of here are the top 10 things that make a community toxic. And then I said, well, it's easy to pull a new video. Let me pull an old video And let's see if the stuff that was from 7 or 10 years ago still applies today, right? And then we'll talk about it. So there's going to be 10 points. So when we watch the video, we're going to watch the video, then we're going to talk about 10 of the highlights from each of these different points, okay? And then we'll jump into it. So let's take a look at this real quick.
Something about our favorite video games just brings out the worst in people.
Sunshine, pops and rainbows, everything that's wonderful is what I feel when we're together.
Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 most toxic video game communities. For this list, we're looking at those communities revolving around a single game or series of games that are generally considered to be rude and unwelcoming, or a combination thereof. We'll only be focusing on the video games themselves, so communities revolving around console fanboys or the PC master race will not be included, as annoying as they are. And hey, if you love these games and you're not too toxic, cool story, bro, we love you. Keep playing nice. Number 10, Dark Souls series. There's no denying that these games are spectacular, featuring some of the most impressive worlds and challenging gameplay we've ever seen. Unfortunately, with the series' infamous difficulty comes an elitist, hardcore community who feel as if they are superior to the filthy casuals of gaming due to their mastering of the complex series. Those who seek help or guidance in these notoriously opaque games are often told to just get good, which is always helpful, right? Finally, the online community isn't so great, as it's filled with constant showboaters, hackers, and lag stabbers, adding a layer of frustration that even the developers didn't fully intend. Number 9, FIFA series.
Get the ball!
Soccer, excuse me. Football is one of the most popular sports in the world, so it's natural that the FIFA series would draw in millions of players every year. Unfortunately, a lot of these players are cheaters and crybabies.
If they score now, they'll get in front of me angry. Oh my god!
The series has a history with hackers ruining the infrastructure of the games, but it's the general attitude in the matches themselves that annoy people the most. You'll be lucky to even finish a game in the first place, as many players are known to simply disconnect after letting in a goal or two. For those of us who are lucky enough to finish, we are often treated to childish screaming, spamming, and obnoxious celebrations. That's some great sportsmanship there, boys.
Goal! Fantastic header!
Number 8, DayZ.
You're surrounded. Don't move, don't move. Okay, it's okay, we're not gonna kill you.
DayZ's concept revolves around a sense of community. Ironically, it has since developed into the lawless wasteland that is known as today, simply based on the notion that people are dicks.
Whoa!
Due to the nature of the game, DayZ is essentially an asshole simulator, seemingly bringing out the most sadistic trolls in the gaming community, intent on one thing and one thing only: killing you, taking your stuff, and erasing hours of progress. It seems that no matter your intentions, whether you want to scavenge in silence or approach someone with friendly intentions, you'll end up getting a bullet or KOS'd regardless. We understand that this is supposed to add an element of danger and realism, but in the end it can get really, really annoying.
Oh, don't think we didn't notice you wiggle out of those handcuffs.
Number 7, Mass Effect series.
How's it look? Like hell? Take a look for yourself.
It's no secret that fans get very involved in a good story, and they voice their displeasure when the conclusion doesn't satisfy their imaginations. That's what happened with Mass Effect 3. Add to this the fact that the game included multiplayer that nobody really asked for, and you have a recipe for an angry mob on your hands.
I was created to bring balance, to be the catalyst for peace between organics and synthetics.
Voicing your opinion against something you don't like is totally fine. We played it, and yeah, the ending kinda blows. But the worst part of this was when the Retake Mass Effect crowd tried to leverage the Child's Play charity in order to help their cause. A children's charity, guys? Come on! The real shame here was A, there was legitimate criticism to be made, and B, Mass Effect was pretty damn good up until that point. But ask the community about it and you're gonna hear otherwise.
I don't believe that. If we can control it, why shouldn't it be ours?
Number 6, Team Fortress 2.
Look, go! Move in! Move up! Move up, Pop 1000! Faster than that!
While many players of Team Fortress 2 are perfectly fine, there is a small, vocal minority that makes the game unbearable for everyone, especially for new players. The game seems to draw a lot of elitist gamers who believe that they are kinda better than everyone, and being boat-kicked for playing poorly or playing as the wrong character is not uncommon in this one.
All you guys do is get flanked like fucking little fucking f***ers. Put up a fucking sentry in the middle and it won't happen.
This is on top of the constant whining about minis on Hightower, despite it being a perfectly legal and legit form of playing, and the incessant complaining about bad or inexperienced teammates. If you've never played this game but have always wanted to check it out, we recommend you mute the chat, at least for the first few months.
That was a fucking garbage display of heavy. Jesus fucking Christ.
Number 5, Counter-Strike series.
Oh, come at me! Probably your mom's probably dead.
While the Counter-Strike games may be a blast to play, the community, and Global Offenses community in particular, can be so darn toxic that it might negate any sense of fun you might have. The games always devolve into a mess of children screaming into the microphone, vocal abuse towards other players, higher ranked players getting unnecessarily upset, team killers, D-rankers, and of course griefers.
I can pull so many noobs on it.
If that wasn't all, the servers are also poorly managed, encouraging shady tactics and, in some cases, hacking. To truly experience this series, it's best to find some buddies to play with, because the people you'll be randomly matched with are a mixed bag, to say the least.
You fucking banana!
Number 4, Minecraft.
How long do you think it'll take to demolish that?
Oh, how long will it take to demolish this house? Don't you worry about that. It's well on its way right now to being completely flattened.
Really?
Oh yeah.
While many people in the Minecraft community will work together and create magnificent things, there are others who do the exact opposite, particularly on public servers. Unfortunately, with popular games come immature gamers, and Minecraft is filled to the brim with them.
I have a little surprise for you.
Alright, what is it?
You'll see.
What's a troll? What does that mean?
Oh, you'll see.
Who's laughing?
Oh my god, it's
Oh my gosh, no! My house! I hate you!
Not only will they spam the chat function with garbage, but others will actually troll and destroy other players' creations at will. The malicious behavior even led to the popularization of the term griefing, as Minecraft became well known for its troublesome players. This has become a serious problem for server admins and neutral gamers alike. Number 3, Halo series.
What the heck are you doing? Who do you think you are?
Back in the day, Halo was the pinnacle of the online multiplayer experience, as Halo 2 perfected the art of Xbox Live and became immensely popular. However, due to its popularity, it has drawn both children, childish adults, and new fans who do nothing but clash with the old.
Dude!
Most games devolve around childish screaming matches and immature teabagging, while the forums are filled with arguments regarding the quality of each game compared to the next. Old fans want the classic Halo gameplay returned and whine about every new gameplay element that 343 implements. New fans enjoy the experience and progress. Both sets do nothing but argue with each other. Can't we just play the game and have fun? No? Okay.
Oh! This is war!
Number 2, Call of Duty series.
I don't care what you have. Now I'm gonna get 6 free kills on you because you're cheating, you're asshole.
You're the one trying to cheat. I'm just trying to play fair.
Perhaps one of the most infamous communities in video gaming are the Call of Duty fans. Well, we say fans extremely lightly because it seems that no one actually enjoys playing these games. They just complain about certain aspects.
Oh, does his boyfriend like fart into the microphone every 2 seconds or something, you know?
Many online discussions, a lot of which feature people who don't actually play, revolve around how these games are literally the worst of all time, and players declaring that they'll never buy another Call of Duty game again because they're all the same, man. Yet, they still continue to buy every iteration. The online portion is also no picnic, as it is well known for the whiny children, all of which are either spamming, accusing good players of hacking, or just being really loud and annoying in general.
You know how nerdy that is?
You up in real life.
No, you wouldn't.
Fuck out of here.
You're a little bitch.
Can kill your ass.
You sound like you weigh 120 pounds, please.
Number 1, League of Legends and Dota 2.
Because you're garbage. You can't solo queue because your penis is so fucking small you can't even play this game correctly.
Where to begin with these two? Gamers typically reference League and Dota when speaking about how toxic MOBA communities can be, and for good reason. Something about these games just seems to bring out the worst in people, as you will hear some of the most profane, racist, and inappropriate language you will ever hear while playing a game.
You're retard. It kills me too, idiot. Fucking erase Dota, you fucking goddamn it, retard.
Players can sabotage teammates with intentional feeding and verbally abuse other gamers for performing poorly. Many remain unapologetic in light of their behavior, and it's gotten so bad that major gaming websites have actively written about the problem. But perhaps the worst part of all is how the two communities are incredibly hostile to each other. Why can't they just get along and be nice to each other? That's a very good question.
Lich, you're not fucking midding. Fuck off. You got offline bot. Oh, you fucking kidding me? Fucking hell. I'm reporting this arsehole. Please, multiple reports.
Do you agree with our list?
No! I knifed him!
What fan bases have made you mute your chat for good? For more user-friendly top 10s published every day, be sure to subscribe to WatchMojo.com. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to water plants and Animal Crossing. No toxicity there.
Alrighty, good old Watch Mojo to help us out there. All right, gentlemen, you both were smiling during several moments of this whole thing. You know, I want to first of all deal with this topic of community. I want to cover that for a moment. I think I still have. Did I save it? I think I did. Let's see. Is this it? Yeah. Okay. Captain Serious Fun, this is one that you quite often say on your channel when you're out. You talk about the beloved community, and a lot of people hear you say it, but maybe some people don't know the history of that statement. The beloved community is a concept that describes a society where people work together to eliminate social issues, prejudice, and violence through love, compassion, and kindness. You say, well, how does that got to do with video gaming? Right? I mean, a lot of people ask about social issues, right? But this is ascribed to Dr. King, civil rights movement. And I kind of want to start with that as a background a little bit. And tell me, why do you feel this sentiment, what motivates you to use the sentiment? I'm not saying necessarily that's going to be our application here, but you do it within a gaming experience. You always say the beloved community. So what for you, why did you decide to adopt that when you talk to gamers?
Well, anytime I bother to come together with other humans, this is what I'm striving to do, right? So whether it is in or out of gaming, if we're going to connect at all, if I'm going to bother to talk to you as a person beyond my family, right? I want to connect in a way where we are breaking down barriers for people doing well, and we're doing it to care for each other, right? Yes, it does come from the household and the community that I grew up in, which was steeped in, the stuff that empowered the Black working class and middle class. That was my family, right? So, there was the civil rights movement involvement. There was the involvement in civic groups like the Masons and others. And there was involvement in the union community that kept everybody employed. So those things are how I was raised. And so I take that stuff in the real world and go, well, if I'm going to be involved with gaming humans, I want to see the same things happen in the gaming environment, which is, let's make sure that barriers to people enjoying themselves and connecting are lowered where they can be lowered. And that we do it in a way that decides to start and end in kindness and gratitude, right? And the whole thing, community the etymology of the word goes all the way back to this idea of deciding who's in your in group, right? And deciding who you have commonness with, right? And for decades, I mean, this is a 14th century word, right? But for centuries, that's been the question, right? Not who is my neighbor, but very often people ask that question to define who is not my neighbor, right?
Yeah, very true.
Who do I get to leave behind? Who do I get to step over? Who do I get to not think about, right? And we've got a tradition in our religiosity. We've got a tradition in our communities that asks us to think, well, actually, if you're going to do this right, you're focused on making sure nobody's left behind, right? That nobody's excluded, nobody's harmed by the environment. So yeah, that's what we try to talk about in the context of that. Now, some of the stuff we just saw, and I'm sure Fast Card will illuminate as well, but that ain't that.
Well, let's talk about that next. Let's go there next. And I am going to address this to Fast Cart. When I looked up the definition, that Captain already kind of started going down this road. I looked up the definition for community, and there were two sets of definitions. But for gaming, I decided to go for the second set of definitions. Okay, this is from Merriam-Webster Fast Cart, and it says it could be a social state or condition, a school that encourages a sense of community among its students, or B, joint ownership or participation in community of goods. C, a common character, likeness, community of similar interests. And then D was social activity, fellowship. And, we just got finished having our own little staff meeting about how do we make people feel included and a part of and participating, right? And that's one of the things a Soul Citizen wants to do. When you've thought about community, what is drawing you to this particular? I mean, you play a lot of games, but you probably invest the bulk of your time into this community. What would you say, if I'm saying that correctly? If I'm not, then tell me. Or is there another community that you feel like you put more effort and energy into? But what draws you to step into a community, and do you adapt some of these things here into that?
What brought me to the community stuff that we definitely not stuff that we saw in that video that we just watched. That does not draw me into community. So I'm glad that we don't have too much of that, or if any of that at all in our community that I've seen anyway. Basically, I started 2014. I started watching Twitch, and I got drawn in and started playing, and I think the maturity level of our community, especially back then, was much higher than the maturity level of many of the games that were featured in that video. And I think that helped. I think the average age is lowering now as the game gets more popular, and that's not a bad thing. But I think it would. And advantageous that in 2012, 2014, 2016, the average age and maturity was higher than most typical online game, and I think that drew me in quite a bit, because you don't hear many people bad mouthing people, and I appreciate that.
Okay.
I mean, that's a powerful point, Fast Cart. You did not have early on in this project a lot of 10, 12, 15, 19-year-olds willing to give money, right? Willing to give money to sit in a hangar and stare at a ship and dream about what something could be, right? There's too much other things for that group of folks to do, right? And so I think you're right in that the community began by skewing much older than some other gaming communities. And for those folks, there's a percentage of that group that's been there and done that with a lot of this other stuff, right? And they were looking for something to be different. And one of the challenges going forward, I know you're going to get to probably get to this, Griff, with like going forward, what's it going to be like. But I'll say this, one of the challenges going forward is as the game becomes less of a dream and less of a possibility and more of a game, how do you integrate those folks that are coming to play the game and keep that sort of other sensibility? And I have a lot of views just based on that video. A lot of things come to mind, so I'll hold on to that.
Okay. Yeah, you guys are kind of going in the direction that, in Fast Cart, you do illuminate a good point about the age demographic. And Cap, you mentioned about the fact that there's a different type of gamer who is willing to step in at that point and not have a game in their hand. That is definitely a different group. Now, we'll push back against Fast Cart about it, though. He said they ain't had no money. These kids get money because in them console games, they find money. You know what I mean? Now,
yeah, they're not going to give no money to that.
Right. I'm just saying, right. They got a $60, cartridge or whatever for a game, or $100. They're not going to buy a lot like the other folks do. I get what you're saying, though, Fast Cart. They're not going to invest like others.
Right.
And back at that level. But I will agree with you 100%, though, that there's a dynamic of those who want instantaneous gratification versus those who might have been willing to wait for that gratification, may have taken a certain level of maturity. If you open that door, you can present to both demographics, but one group's going to say, I'm not waiting for no game, So let me change up then, since we covered that topic, and let me run this past you, because Fast Cart, you said, or one of you guys said that we don't have it in our community, at least not yet. So I'm going to take the 10 highlight points that I saw when I watched the video. Okay. And we're going to talk about these. And I'm going to start with number 10, which was Dark Souls. And it was that statement that he made about how when people are struggling and trying to make their way through a game, the natural response is get good, right? And Cap, you mentioned about this thing that CIG has implemented. Was it Founders Day or Foundation Day, whatever it's called, where people who are current players help new people. They volunteer to step in and help them learn that, you know, they don't have to even be in my org or anything. It's just that you're a new player. We get paired up and I teach you the basics of how to get around the game, which is unique. I think that's very unique for a game.
Yeah. Foundation Festival is very unique. Absolutely.
Now, what do you guys think about that? The helping versus get good. I'm not listen. And even the person in the Mojo video said, there's nothing wrong with get good. I mean, we understand get good, but get good often becomes more of a, what's the word? No. What's the word we used? It's not passive aggressive, but it's our way of taking a shot at you too.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, we ain't looking out for your well-being. You know, we stomping on your body and jumping around. Get good.
Right.
So, you know, but yeah, were you going to say, Cap, about the help versus get good?
Well, no, I was going to say that Dark Souls and Elden Ring is a very interesting example for me personally, because I have always felt off cycle and off kilter with Dark Souls and Elden Ring. They have always been highly frustrating games for me, right? Like for whatever reason, they don't click with me, right? And I don't want to play them long enough to get good, right? And so
by the way,
can
Chris
tell
Roberts
you that
Chris Roberts does like Dark Souls too.
Yeah, and people can look forward to that when it comes to Death of the Spaceman.
Exactly.
Right.
But I can tell you that if somebody had come along early in my Dark Souls and Elden Ring experience and said, no, the game sort of cycles and functions this way, and this is the sort of pattern of reaction that you might want to consider, I might have played those games because they were all so interesting.
Yeah.
Right. But there was no, there might have been, but I accessed no community like that. And they lost sales. Right. I went for the first Dark Souls and we're like, nope. I tried out Elden Ring when it went on sale and I was like, nope. And all the stuff in the middle, I'm not interested in that universe. So
yeah. Okay. Fast Card, what about you? The get good helping. Where's your feelings about that?
I from the immediate get go, I knew what Dark Souls was about. I'm like, nope, not for me. I'm too old for that frustration. Nope, I'm not gonna play that. But
yes, Star Citizen. What do you think about Star Citizen?
In regard to Star Citizen, yes, I do appreciate this community because I forget the program. You mentioned the Foundation Festival, but there's a specific name for it. I didn't have time to look it up, but they have the guides and Star Citizen.
Yes.
And I think that's a great idea because I don't a lot of people may not remember, but we actually had a tutorial in Star Citizen for a little bit, but it got depreciated and then they tried to take it out. So I think the guide program is an excellent, not replacement, but a way to carry over until a more proper tutorial is put back into the game. So yeah, I appreciate that. Versus get good. Because I mean, people can watch YouTube videos all day, and it's all to actually get into the game and try it themselves. Some people may not get what the game is about. So yeah.
I think that there is a bit more helping for another reason too, especially in the current state of the game with it being alpha. We had somebody just the other day that was trying to figure out something, and there are a lot of workarounds, right? You can go to the options or go to the little keyboard overlay and do something and it doesn't work, and or a keybind changes, right? And someone says, I should be able to do this, or how can I do this? That there are people who actually are willing to help you because they know that maybe you did do the homework and you just didn't find it, right? Or it's just one of those weird nuanced things. Like, how about this one? Get out of the seat and get back in it. You know what I mean? No, there's no instructions for that, right? So people will sometimes extend themselves, I think, even more because they know that they were there at some point struggling, with those same things, and someone helped them out. So I think that that's very helpful.
Sometimes the solution is non-intuitive. Right?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh my God!
You're standing at the ASOP terminal in Area 18, and all of a sudden you can't move.
Right.
But the chat window will open up. So you do a dance emote, and now you can move,
Now you
right?
can move, right. Yeah.
Like, who's gonna know that? And so much of this stuff I figured out after joining the Soul Citizens community. And you're playing together as a group, and then you'll hear people say, "Have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried this?" And you find out there are 4 different ways to maybe solve the thing, right? Well, you're not going to gain access to that without community. I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I know this is not really community, but the third-party software like Toby Eye Tracker and Voice Attack, and a whole lot of people put out configuration for joysticks and stuff like that to help people get into the game. I think that's extremely helpful. You don't see that in many other games.
Yeah, a lot of that helping helps you get good, right? When it's all said and done. Okay, FIFA. I've never played FIFA. I know Colossal, our good friend, he loves football. He's into that. But this is not something just strictly to FIFA. But they mentioned this in FIFA, and that's hackers. CIG has had, even in development, its issues with hacking. I remember back when they first implemented Arena Commander, and you would go in and do the FPS stuff. There were people who found wall hacks and X-ray vision and things like that came into the game. And we know that there have been some people who just recently had made software that allowed people to do some hacking. I guess one of the good things about this right now in development is that this gives opportunity for CIG to address those issues before the project is out. You guys got any feelings about that? I mean, we don't see it a lot, but and it's kind of tough because sometimes people will call hacker when it's not hacking. It's actually somebody who's really good. You know what I mean? And they did what they were supposed to do. So, trying to discern what really is hacking and when is it just somebody just mad and they just decide to cry wolf, is a thing. So you guys got any thoughts on that with hackers?
Yeah. Tell me if I'm crazy. I'm crazy anyway, but not for that. I've never seen.
Well, you already know.
I've never seen anti-cheat software be implemented for a game that's an alpha before. Is that just me, or I've never seen anti-cheat software being implemented for a game that's not it's an alpha. It's not even in beta yet, but they already have anti-cheat. And I was like, I want to say I don't know, I forget when it was implemented. Yeah, it was a while ago, quite a few years now. But people in the community were basically happy for it, or at least when it worked for them. And I think it calmed a lot of people down. There's still some issues, and whenever there's an issue, people can report it, and hopefully CIG or whatever they do with the anti-cheat software can take care of it. But yes, this is unique anti-cheat software for a game that's not out yet.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I think FIFA is an interesting example in that I've played FIFA since the days of the 3DO, right, and the first PlayStation. And Road to the World Cup '98 on PC, right? And I've played FIFA every year, right? Big FIFA player. At one point was nationally ranked. Played it in a FIFA Interactive World Cup tournament down in the major city near where I live, and really serious about FIFA. But when it comes to the truth about FIFA, there's a seasonality to it. In that when the game first comes out, there's very few hacks for a couple of reasons. One is people actually want to try and play the game and see how good they can get. And the hacks for that particular year haven't been built yet. But you do come to the end of that season fairly early on. It's maybe about 3 months in. And then you begin to, and then what's interesting is that you can see the hacks and you can discern the hacks. Why? Because you've played the game now enough to know what the capabilities of the software is. And then when you see stuff that sits outside that and you start seeing it kick in certain moments, right? You realize, oh, the hackers have come. And now, and then that's when I walk away from the online experience.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so the FIFA community has never felt like a community to me because I never sustained myself on the multiplayer side, because it is so broken by the hacking.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you that I don't understand hacking at all. Right? I don't understand the idea of I'm playing something, I want the credit and status of being a winner, but I cheat to win, and I've never really won in any authentic way. What credibility do you think you get? Right? I don't know.
And to expand on that, you're hacking in a game that's alpha. It's not even out yet. It's not. You don't have the stuff that we get now won't be what you have in 1.0. So we're using alpha AUVC, alpha UVC. It's not the normal UVC that you'll get when 1.0 launches. I don't see the point. Why do you feel the need to have decision satisfaction or success in something that will get wiped or is not permanent yet?
We
I
can
do
get
think there are
into-
gray markets that hackers are trying to access sometimes too. In FIFA, there was the whole side that was Ultimate Team, right? You have Ultimate Team, and people apparently there's some gray marketing with regard to Ultimate Team, and I know that there's some gray marketing with the duping hacks in Star Citizen. So there are people who are making real world dollars out of some of these things. And to your point, Griff, it is important that Star Citizen and CIG I don't think there's a moment where they're going to solve this. What they're going to have to do is dedicate a team that is always countering the malfeasance of the hacker community, right? That is always on the forums, always in those communities, is undercover, is doing whatever they need to do, right? To then come back and go, this is the current hack this month, and here's our counter to it, right? And I don't think you ever get rid of it, but that's the way that you have in an MMO environment, really, you can minimize it. But they've got to dedicate resources to that, in my view.
Yeah. We tried to do, I think a while back, we did a show about, we touched on, to answer your question, Cap, what is the psychology, what is the thought processes behind the person who decides to hack and cheat, and why is that considered winning? It's a real interesting thing. I've just recently talked about on one of my shows on Soul Voices, people redefining what words mean to fit their view of things. And they will call that winning. They call that winning. I won. I beat you. They've redefined what it means to win. And it's sad. You don't want to become the word police, but you do need to call out that is not winning. You didn't beat me. You see what I'm saying? And unfortunately, we don't say that. Right. We don't say that. Right. We don't say that. We know that.
Yeah, because it's considered rude.
Yeah, and we allow them to, usurp that word, right, and use it to their benefit. There was a time when cheating was humiliating.
Right.
It is no longer humiliating. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, we can get to a whole nother psychological discussion. Let's go to DayZ. Infamous DayZ. Kill on sight regardless. This is an interesting one. I don't know if it's because of my game experiences, because of my age, because I'm a softie. I don't know what the deal is. But every time I'm in an encounter and I see someone, my natural response is not to shoot. That's my natural response. Now, it's not that I won't do it. I'm just referring to my natural response. My natural response is, let me see what's going on here. KOS is not just the fact that you feel threatened. Kill on sight means that if it's moving, shoot it. Okay.
Kill first, ask questions later.
And it's not even ask a question. It's not even, you're not even caring about asking no questions. It's just, we play Mortal Online 2. Mortal Online is very, very, if you want to go to a deep, heavy PvP, brutal game, Mortal Online is it. And I would say when you have an encounter in Mortal Online, there is a 10%, maybe 20% chance that if you come across somebody, they're not going to try to kill you. Every once in a while, listen, you could be walking with no clothes on, but your underwear saying arms to the poor, and they will roll up on you and kill you. And all you had was 2 arms in your pocket, and they'll leave those 2 arms with you. They won't even take them. It's just this is a natural instinct to do that. There's no threat. I have no weapons on me. I'm in my underwear, but yet and still, and we used to have kill on sight lists. We knew who the orgs and groups were that we would say, hey, when you see these people, because they killed our guy on sight, retaliate. That I understood. We were getting back from what you did to our person.
Right.
So I'm not saying anything about shoot first and ask questions later. I think that's fine. I think there are times when, if you're out there doing something, you see some other folks showing up, you already know why they're there. So it's time to start shooting. The question becomes, is there, what you saw in the video for DayZ was that there was a the game was designed to be around survival, and
Mhm.
survival has a lot to do with threats. It has to do with threats. But once you have, if Ascart, you and I are out there doing it, and we've captured Captain Serious Fun, and let's just say we're doing something, and we've got him right. He's handcuffed like the guy. He's got his police cuffs on, and we've got him in the back of the Advocacy Avenger, and we got all his stuff, and we're talking trash and everything, and that's fine. You know what I'm saying? And he's done everything we've asked him to do, and we kill him still. Fair? Not fair? I don't know. I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm just asking, killing on site regardless. Even if you've complied, you've done everything, you've surrendered your stuff. Because this idea is not about the killing, it's about what's lost in the killing. It's lost the progression, the experience. Maybe when we killed Cap, this time we killed him. This was the last time his character could regenerate in Star Citizen, right?
I was going to say that, yeah.
And now he's did everything. He did everything that the person who captured him said do. Now he's lost his character. Is that going to be something? Is it something we should care about? Not care about? Is it nothing we can do about? Is it the work we live in?
You better care about it because I'm coming.
Yeah. It's coming, yeah.
You
definitely.
better care about it. I'm coming.
There are some people like me who will want to keep that first character for as long as possible. But I know there's people who are coming after me who try to take that away just because I had that first character, and they want to set me back for whatever reason, reputation wise, money wise, so on and so forth. So
people come after you because you're fast card.
That's true also.
I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be funny.
Yeah.
I'm saying somebody sees you and says, hey, there's fast card. You know what I mean? And they solely come after you because
let's see how fast, right?
Yeah.
I am dreading people trying to come after my Bandy Merchantman because they say, I have fast card Bandy Merchantman right here. Come and see.
I think you need to pick another favorite ship. That's what I think you need to do. You need to throw them off course is what you need.
The 890 yacht. That's going to be my new favorite ship.
Right. Go ahead.
FC. Go ahead, FC. Sorry.
No, okay. So, the kill on site regardless. Yeah, I mean, it is coming. I'm dreading it. It's going to be unfortunate. But I think that first month of 1.0 is going to be really bad for us Care Bears and people who are trying to do industrial stuff like that. Like, I'm just going to lay low that first month. And hopefully the second month or the third month, things will calm down. People who are not invested in the game will have moved on, and it'll be more calmer and I don't want to say safer, but more fun. Put it that way. Less aggravated.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you guys too. We're gonna tighten our time up a little bit because this is gonna turn into a 1 hour video, and I was really thinking it was gonna be a 30-minute, 35 minutes. So I'm gonna try to cut back too. So go ahead, Cap. You can jump in.
I was gonna say very quickly. I'm reminded of Bill Parcells when I think of these things. And Bill Parcells, one of the famous things he said is, "You are what your record says you are." Right. And in this case, a game is what the developers have decided to build it as. Right. So people need to stop acting as if DayZ has these dynamics that are astonishing or shocking that people act. They built the game mechanics so these things could happen. And they could have built something else so something else happened, right? But they built this so this happens, right? And so for us with Star Citizen, what I will say is if they decide to, for example, highly incentivize Wanted alive, bring him in alive instead of kill him, you'll see a lot of people bring the person in alive because there's more incentive to do that. But that's just a decision, right? That CIG can make, right?
CIG can do that with bounty hunting.
That's exactly my point.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Yeah, exactly. That's a good point.
They can just decide that bringing people in alive or keeping them alive in other contexts is more valuable than killing them.
Yeah.
Right? Soft deathing ships is more valuable than destroying them.
Yeah.
If they set that framework up, then it is. Right? Yeah. And now we play that way. So
Absolutely. Okay. This is a game that I know both of you guys are familiar with, Mass Effect. This one I got a bad misspelling in there. You know how my OCD kicks in. I've got to fix that. Player imagination is unsatisfied. And I want to kind of clarify what I mean by that. There are decisions that CIG may be making during the development of this process that in the end, players ain't happy about. They've imagined when I get in my so and so, I'm gonna go do so and so. One of the big things we talk about all the time is people soloing big ships. I'm gonna get in my
Idris.
Idris and put all my blades in and blah 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 blah. What happens when this is all said and done, and we may find out that 10% of what I thought was going to be in here isn't here. 20% of what, maybe even 50% of what I thought this was going to be, isn't in the game. Will people say this was all a hot mess? Because we already get this now. We get people who say this used to be in the game and they took it out, right? And they rage. And I've had people say, if they don't do such and such, I'm quitting the game, right?
Well, I'm getting a refund.
Yeah, right. Don't give any more money because they changed.
Don't get no cash till pyro.
Yeah. So either one of you guys who want to jump in on this, what happens if the player's imagination, the thing that they think Star Citizen will be, doesn't come into fruition?
Well, I'll say this.
Okay,
go ahead. No, go ahead, Fastguard. Go ahead.
No, real quick. I'll say. I think education or educating yourself about the game is important. Like I don't know about other people, but before I decide to, I buy maybe 5 or 6 games a year. Other people may get 20, but I try to do my I look at reviews, try to do my research, which say is this a game I like, or is this a game I'm going to download one, play it, and leave it alone. So I try to do my homework before I get into a game, and I think that's important for something as elaborate or as Star Citizen is. So I think player education is important. So this may not be the game for you. Someone may come in from EVE Online, expecting another EVE Online experience. This ain't that. And this is Chris Roberts' view and Chris Roberts' plan, rather than he's bringing the rest of us along for the ride. And I'll stop there.
Okay.
Yeah, really quick. I would say what's interesting about Star Citizen versus Mass Effect is that Mass Effect, people were upset at Mass Effect 3 because Mass Effect and then Mass Effect 2 presented an increasing complexity of each game's endgame. Right. And so when they got to Mass Effect 3, they were expecting more complexity in the decisions and the consequences than they got in Mass Effect 2. And in fact, they got this radical reduction of complexity to 3 choices of 3 colors at the end that didn't seem to do justice to the outcome. Right. Now, there's no reason to protest that. It is what it is. Right. I didn't like it. I liked the alternative indoctrination theories that people came up with and all this other stuff. But guess what? I still put Mass Effect in front of my kids and they still enjoyed it, right? Everything ain't gonna be perfect, but that's an ending to a trilogy that people were upset about. We have an opportunity with Star Citizen to see stuff up front, to make clearer choices, to Fastguard's point, because we're seeing it as it goes, right? Now, what happens is that you have people who were here in 2012, 2013, like me, who, when it gets to where it's gonna go, they've been invested for a decade, right? And so you have that upfront anger and upsetness because they've been there for 10 years and it ends up not being. We got to get ready for that. The Fastguard's point, this is, I don't care. It doesn't matter how long you've been here. You ain't Chris Roberts.
Yeah.
Right? And so this will be Chris Roberts' vision. Now, hopefully you get some meaningful percentage of what you wanted, right? But, and I'm going to do a video on this, but the key to happiness is 2 things: gratitude and lightly held expectations, right? Not low expectations, but don't grip your expectations so hard, right? Don't grip them so hard. Be the true steel. Don't be iron that when it's time to bend, you break, right? And you don't want to be aluminum. You don't want to be flexible all over the place. You want to be in the middle. You want to be that true steel. You got just enough flexibility, but you're still getting things the way you want to get them. So, for me, there's a big difference between Mass Effect and Star Citizen in that Mass Effect had that thing at the end and we've got line of sight up front. So
But to your point, we all have our own subconscious. What's the end of Star Citizen? Whether you're talking about the persistent universe or Squadron 42, right? What happens? What happens if the player's imagination ends up being unsatisfied? And we won't know until we get there, right? So
nope, we won't know.
It's gonna be interesting to see where that goes.
Well, and to a certain extent, some of my imagination has already been satisfied, though, Griff.
Yeah,
right.
I get it,
when I'm able to, last night you were playing and I was watching your stream, And the moment you were about to say it, I said it, which is look at that mountain range. And you're like, I have to go there. And you can go there. And you can sit on the top of that mountain and you can watch the sunrise. Like, I'm already getting what pieces of what I want right now.
Yeah.
What I worry for are the people that are right now getting nothing of what they want. Right?
And
If you ain't seeing nothing you like so far, you might want to rethink it, right?
And speaking to Cat's point, I'm going to try to make this quick, but I don't think about actually voice this publicly, but I'm going to voice it now. People know this. I'm waiting for my betting investment. I'm waiting for my endeavor. If science gameplay and magic crafting gameplay or economy gameplay aren't what I'm expecting, I'm worried about how I may react. So it may not be as enjoyable as I envision it, and that does worry me. But hopefully, I'll be able to manage.
Okay, fair enough. All right, let's go on here. Team Fortress 2, game I've never played. I always hear people talking about it. TF2, abuse by a vocal minority. And let me be specific of this because we're going to talk about some other vocal aspects later. But there are people in the community who are I don't know what you want to call them. They're not, maybe they're trolls, but the people who, when you go on Spectrum, you may share your thoughts about something, and it's almost like they have an alarm clock that goes off that as soon as you hit send, they immediately are there to tell you how you are wrong and you don't know what you're talking about, and they just rip into you just because you said, I'd like to see so-and-so, and there's almost an aspect of belittling, ridiculing, they know everything.
But it is a little universe of the usual suspects too on Spectrum.
I ask myself, how do you have time to
for a game that's not even out yet?
I glance through the Spectrum stuff to see what's out there, but these are people who almost go down each one and read them to see what area they can attack somebody, right? I don't know. I think it's a vocal minority. And to your point, Captain, it's the same folk that feel like they are the authorities of whether what you think has any sense or validity in the game.
Right.
Any thoughts on that? And I'll keep that to Spectrum, not Reddit, only because Spectrum is CIG, right? And that's their official community place.
Well, I'll say this, and this goes for me for Team Fortress, CSGO, and your number ones, League of Legends and Dota, right? For all 4 of those experiences, I have stayed as far away as possible because
Isn't that a problem? But isn't that a problem? Because their
toxicity is right. Their toxicity is legendary. Yeah. It's so legendary that it was easy for me to see it a mile away. And there was nothing about the tech or the graphics or the setting that was so compelling that made me want to try it, right? So just to be clear, that I have not played those games because that's all I heard was this is all you're going to hear. And for them, they should feel it as a problem because it can impact their longer term viability. Maybe, right? But to your point about how this type of stuff manifests in Star Citizen, it does manifest on Spectrum, and I think part of it is because the way that we've been connected to the alpha testing experience, there are people who consciously or subconsciously believe that they're going to shape the vision of the game, right? And so they are there to and then if they got the time combined with that sentiment, they are there to hyper police anything that might be said that's outside of that, because they think if I shut this down and keep saying my thing, CIG is going to build my game, right? And they found out with master modes that ain't always the case, right? Chris Roberts wanted us to see these beautiful ships in a closer to World War II dogfighting style, and it didn't matter what they said.
Yeah, screw realism, screw 900 years from now, screw whatever.
Master modes was going to give him what he wanted to see, right? And so I think that some of this comes up against reality. And so there's a group of people like us who are asserting, be ready, this is going to be Chris Roberts' vision. and other people who are thinking, well, I can shape that by shaping this discourse in these spaces and being toxic to other people and shutting conversation down. No, we just having conversation. And if there's ideas on the periphery of that vision that emerge from that conversation, I think that they'll take a look at them. But Chris Roberts has a clear vision, and we are going to see that vision.
Okay.
So,
FC, you got any thoughts on that with the?
No, I'm going to save mine for the next couple of ones.
Okay.
Yeah, I know we're running low on time.
Okay. Well, let's jump into it. Counter-Strike. I know this topic of griefers has come up so many times, and not just Star Citizen, but just in games in general. Star Citizen has had its share, and there have been times when even Cloud Imperium Games has had to intervene and address the issue, both by posting messages to the community and also by actual action, suspending accounts, banning people from playing due to griefing. And there is a sense of, whenever the topic of griefing comes up, that people just kind of have a very throw up their hands and say, well, you're always going to have griefing. It's always going to happen. There's always going to be someone out there. And that may be true. There's also a dynamic that says, well, if you say that, that's exactly what's going to happen too. So I'm not saying that we can reduce it or get rid of it. Maybe we can minimize it, reduce it. Maybe it's not, to your point, Captain, maybe it's not incentivized when there are other things to do. And we've seen this cycle, right? When a new patch comes out, you see the griefing go away. People are exploring and trying new things. When a patch has been out for a long time and folks get bored, then all of a sudden people are trying to find something to do. The reason why people used to go to Port Olisar and harass people was because that's where everybody spawned in at. It was easier to do it there. And the CIG can put things in place to help minimize that too in the game mechanic, and not guardrails, or what they are things that can work within the game. It could be nothing more than the NPC police that show up when something bad happens. Eve had that with Concord. There can be things that can be done. So I'm gonna stop talking about that. But any thoughts about that? Because I know this is not a new subject for us with griefing.
One thing I'll highlight is that griefers, you know who you are, you know what you're doing. They love to come up with excuses like, "Oh, I'm testing. This is game testing. I'm doing this now so that when the game goes live, you won't be in the game, right?" Wink, wink. They know they're doing wrong, but they're doing it anyway. And there's one time. The armistice zone was not set up in Cairo, and people were setting up firing lines at the elevator, and even Jared Huckabee had to address that and say, "Do better." So, I mean, people. I think it's short-term enjoyability versus long-term. I don't know. But short-term fun versus long-term entertainment. So. I don't know what the solution is, but hopefully CIG will they need a team on this, or like they need a team for hacking, and probably need another team for griefing too.
Yeah, I like the idea of in-game solutions that solve this, in-game mechanics that solve this, and I'd like CIG to really think about ways to allow players and NPC dynamics and in-world experiences to address some of this. But I also don't want them to overreact to the idea that players get bored. My mom, when I used to say that to my mother, I used to say, "I'm bored." She said, "No, you're being boring." This world, and this is when everything was encyclopedias, right? And there was no internet. But she's like, this world has so many things that you would never see, everything that you could see in this world. Go to the library, go read something, go have a new experience. This world is, you're not, there's nothing boring about this world. You're being boring, right? And so when they get this sentiment that players get bored, players have become, expectant. And this is, me ranting, but players have become expectant of this idea that the publisher and the game developer is supposed to continuously give them these dopamine hits, right? That's not their responsibility. Their responsibility is to create a compelling world and for you to go to explore, right? And I think the more systems that we get in and the more that they're able to build out the cultural and components and nuances of those systems, the more there is to take a look at. It's not their job to manage the fact that you don't want to go look at that stuff and you just want to pad RAM, right? And my hope is that they lean into the idea of systems and structures for that, and building out their game world and sticking to their vision, then trying to react and go, as players are acting bored, what can we give them, right? Now, we've gotten some of that anyway, right? Xeno Threat pops up, Jumptown pops up. For me, that's them trying to have in-game ways to speak to some of that, right? Here's an event to go do, right? Where y'all can come together and just button mash and hit each other over the head to your heart's content or whatever, right? But there's no winning, there's no griefing of me wanting to spend time deciding that for the first time in a long time, Hurston looks good in its sunset, right? The dirty old Hurston looks good in its sunset, right? If we want to go see Benny Henge, right? Or, there's all kinds of other stuff to do in the game that is interesting if you decide to be interested, right? And I just don't want them to overreact.
Yeah, I think those are great points you guys are mentioning. I'm hoping that CIG provides enough space, and I think that even if CIG provides that space, the sandbox, the tools, the lore, everything that comes together, I do personally worry though that I, as an old gamer, 60-year-old gamer, I'm still feel I see the decline of imagination in gamers. That even if you gave them every tool in place, that we've become so dependent, as you mentioned, Captain, on the publisher to create our fun that we've forgotten how to make our own. And some people may consider griefing fun. I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying there are other things to do. And if you build a universe, and the only thing I see is in a universe is griefing, I don't see anything else, or I don't find any other aspects, then that bothers me for gamers. Because gamers were dreamers. Gamers used their imagination. Gamers found ways to come up with stuff like a Jumptown that no one expected. But when we default to the thing that's just I don't want to say the lower level of our nature, but that's the only, and it's the, if you do that as, okay, I just felt like doing it today, that's one thing. But if that's the thing that you're doing all the time,
in a universe sim, in a universe,
right? In a whole universe. I worry about that. Okay, enough on griefing. Minecraft. Oh, I've never played Minecraft, and I've watched hours and hours and hours of it. I had to bring this one up. Destroying other players' work. There's so much anticipation for people to be able to build their own bases, right?
Right.
To be able to have their own homestead, their own farm, and there. If I see Captain Serious Fun's base, I could look at it and say, "Oh man, that guy's got a pretty elaborate base. He did a lot of work on that. Or that's pretty cool. That's a great idea. I'm going to go back and build my base like that." Or I could say, "Ooh, bullseye!" Right? I got a couple different options of what I can do. And this kind of goes to the KOS regardless thing for me. I don't necessarily attack Cap's area because he happens to be built on a great area of Bexelite, right? Or because he's got these great farms and this great fertile land that's by a river. Let's take that so we can build there. But it's just the fact that it exists is enough for me to want to do it. Do you think people will respect that dynamic? Maybe because they know how much work it takes, and I know CIG said that they're going to put in things to help protect, turrets and things like that, NPCs that'll guard. But as you saw in the example for Minecraft, there was somebody who went in with deliberate nature to literally destroy hours and hours and hours of someone's work for no other reason than lulz. Is that something that we have to worry about, or do you think it'll be okay?
I say again, that first month, and especially the first 2 weeks, 1.0 is going to be rough for a lot of people. Be careful what you try to put down and put out. Like you may want to hold off on building that base for a while. I mean, some people, unless you have plenty of protection, and this is the other thing, logistics and stuff like that. You have logistics, you have the framework within your community or org to protect everything, and build a bunch of bases together along a river, and you can cover each other in case one of you are offline, the other one can look out for stuff. Then you may be okay. But I'm thinking that first month or two is going to be rough for a lot of people, and it's going to be unfortunate.
Okay. Yep.
Yep, I absolutely agree with that. And the reason I think it's true is that CIG has already shown us that they have a habit of putting a thing out there and then seeing how players use it and then coming back to balance it, right? So I imagine with base building in particular, they will put it out there and see the extent to which players can come up with their own methodologies to defend and sustain their base, right? But if they find that elaborate bases after 1 month are being destroyed with no real gameplay methodology to sort of solve for that, then I think they'll make systems and gameplay to address it. So for example, you talked about being able to put up turrets, right? I don't want, to be frank, I don't want the gameplay to be I put up turrets and now my base is invulnerable.
Right.
What I want is something that's sort of like I put up certain defense systems and that protects my base, but those defense systems themselves require resources and crafting and other things that are gameplay. And then every now and then, the same with it, every now and then I've got to drink and eat. Every now and then I've got to go get the resources that allow my base to maintain its protective function. And then my base is going to be around, right? Because I did the things that I needed to do. But to be in a game where regardless of what I do, somebody can just come along and destroy the work, that's going to make people hate the game, right? And that's not what you want. But you also want to make sure that they recognize that there's a responsibility in gameplay that they have to have in order to maintain the stuff that they want and make it all traveling around the game, make it all gameplay, right? Like, oh, what the batteries that last longer for this set of guns are made only over in this system 2 systems away. And very rarely are they traded. I've got to go there, right? And maybe it's run by a gang, right? So maybe I got to, and just interesting things like that they can create to make sure that it's a gameplay driven dynamic to maintain this stuff. Because that kid in that Minecraft portion of the video, he just suffered, right? Nobody comes to games to suffer, right? So.
That's true. Okay, Halo. This is a subject. Boy, oh boy, when I say this
Oh,
one, I think
boy.
you guys will identify with this one. They talked about a lot of stuff in the Halo one and how Halo was kind of like the grandpappy of a lot of this stuff, particularly with griefing. But the picture that I wanted to pull out there was the thing with old fans versus new fans, and we have this actually happening in the game now.
Yes,
you've got the old folks who feel a certain kind of way about the game, and right now are pushing back about change, things being different, things being implemented. Then you've got the new fans who come in who are excited about the progress and excited about the new things that are being implemented. And there's going to be a 2-part to this thing, right? So you've got these 2 different feelings about sentiments about the game. You get a Yo-Yo Meg who comes in and she's starting to learn things and she's excited. And then you've got the person over here who's just, they just grouchy and when is it going to take so long and blah, 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 blah. And why did they bring this master modes in? We need to go back to the first flight model. We got all this stuff going on, right? Now that's one group of people I want y'all to consider. And now the other side is this I want to talk about. The reason why I went back and got an old video instead of a video from 2024 was some of them same people that was in them old videos are now the people going to be coming in on this. All those attitudes and all that stuff you saw and that screaming and hollering, it don't necessarily go away 10 years later.
No.
They often bring that same thing into here as new players, okay? And the old folks who are maybe cool and reserved and we've been riding through this may get an influx, may have already been getting an influx of those folks who bring those attitudes of how they interact with community, right? We see it in the chat sometimes pop up, right? We might see it in the forums sometimes pop up, okay? And actually I'm going to combine this a little bit with the next category of COD, Call of Duty. Because CIG wants to be able to implement, we already have it, but they want to implement VoIP even more, right? Now, notice in that video that we watched from Mojo, they didn't get into like conversations that happen in orgs, right? Because people can say some pretty salty stuff in orgs, but they did talk about public channels.
Yes.
Okay. And right now we can use VoIP and talk publicly in the game. And you don't hear too much verbal. I hear more stuff in the typed out chat than I have in that chat.
Exactly.
Right?
The global chat, yeah.
Right. But my question becomes, as this evolves and that type of conversation and hating on folks and saying stuff, is that something we're going to have to be thinking about that, when you in the concession stand and you go walking, somebody's going to be throwing some stuff at you, so let's tackle that a little bit. Either one of those things, old fans and new fans, or the hostility through voice.
So 2 things come to mind for me. One is the phenomena and definition of culture. And the other one is what Adweek would call the rule of 12, right? And both things, I think, are things that CIG might want to consider as they have this churn and growth of players and player types who, where they stand on things comes from where they've sat, right? So to your point, if you've sat in the COD, Halo, Xbox, scream at each other online environment for 10 years, that is your culture. Culture is daily ways of life, right? So if that's been your daily ways of life for 10 years, when you go 10 years and 2 more days now in Star Citizen, you're going to bring the 10 years of your daily ways of life to that environment, right? And you're going to be looking for those systems. Who do I yell at across VoIP? Where do I scream on the chat? Because that's just the way that I've been, right? How does CIG's got to decide what is its culture going to be? What do they expect the mores and folkways and rules of a daily way of life in Star Citizen? What do they think it includes? Does it include everything? Or do they see it as having a certain thing that would lend itself to a universe sim, which is different than an MMO, right? An MMO is a subset of a universe sim, right? And so the second thing is the rule of 12. Once they decide what their culture is, they need to begin to message that now, right? Because people don't get it until they see it 10, 11, 12 times, right? Nobody wanted a Taco Bell chicken chalupa the first time the commercial came on. But the 12th time you saw the commercial, you was headed down to Taco Bell, right?
No, I wasn't.
But my point is that that's why advertising spends billions and billions of dollars, right?
Advertising, right?
Because they're sending this one-way image message to you to normalize something, and then you go do it, right? And so CIG has to decide what they want their culture to be, and then they have to say it to us. For us, CIG, a universe sim means this, 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 and this, right? And so we're going to be looking for this, 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 and this. And they need to say it over and over, the same way you see the alpha thing, but even better, because people don't read that, right? they just click and then wonder why that they're like, oh, you didn't read the thing. They need to put it out there what their view of this is and message it over and over, particularly to your point, Griff, now, because it's happening now. The community churn and change and growth is happening now. And if they don't say anything, people are going to bring the culture that they come from to the table. And it may or may not be what they want for a universe then.
To Cap's point, I think they're like when it first started, they say that they always wanted to be the best D space sim ever. I think they take out the D word, just called it space sim ever. But I mean, in the first half of the game development, they probably were harping on that, not harping, but defining what that was more than now. I think and now that trying to get 4.0 out and then 1.0 out, maybe they'll come back to that. I'm hoping they do, but we haven't seen that recently as opposed to early on in development. But to the Halo point, old fan versus new fan, I've been worrying about that for a while now. There's a post. Griffin highlighted it recently. Someone was saying, I want the game as it was envisioned in 2014, and they want it now. And I can see that becoming more of an issue as time goes on. Hopefully, it won't reach a breaking point or any kind of like real contention. But I see some push pull between the old fans versus new fans, and I worry about that. But hoping that it won't be as bad as I imagine it could be. But we'll have to see it.
Okay. All right. Well, we are, believe it or not, 1 hour and 14 minutes in on this video. And
Ah,
so I know, so we're going to hit this very last topic here. In the examples that we saw in the video was League of Legends and Dota, LOL and Dota 2 in particular. And I hate to say it that when I first used to hear about League of Legends, you used to always see the advertisements for it. And I was so curious about what it was. And like you, Cap, the first thing I heard was the most toxic community out there. And I didn't even want to learn anything else. That it was just, I didn't even want to try it or anything, right? I just never thought about it. But this issue that came up there was profanity and racism. This is kind of an interesting piece here. I'm an old school guy. I don't use a lot of profanity. I rarely use profanity, if ever. And it's just because the way I was brought up. I don't hold any hard, fast rule about it unless it's abusive toward other people. So profanity, if you want to use the word profanity, in many ways has become much more accepted in society. People use terms. Before, you used to only use profanity as a means to express rage, outrage, anger, whatever the case may be. Now it's kind of used as an emphasis or some other form of language. And that doesn't really deal with me too much. But there is times when profanity is used or directed towards someone and directed toward them with an intent to humiliate, done with a way that's not just because you're angry, but it's a way to emphasize the fact that you are such and such, whatever that may be. And then, of course, racism. We were just watching one of the streamers recently who was making a comment about Asian streamers coming into playing games and MMOs, and the person said that Asians, these gamers, he called them psychopaths, right? There's this general thing, monolithing people, and then there are times when racism is used as nothing more than a trigger. In other words, the person is white is speaking to someone who's white, and they just use a certain term, even though they know that person's not black, as a trigger, right? And then there are times when it is directed towards someone because they think that this person on the other side may be of that race, and so a derogatory racial term is used toward them. And these are done as forms of attack on other players. There have been instances of this that has happened. I haven't seen it on Spectrum. But I have seen it in the global chat in the game from time to time, and I've seen where sometimes the community steps up and says, "Hey, you need to chill on that," or when people have been reported for it. Racism's a tough one for me to deal with because I'm in the United States. All of us are in the United States, and we have a certain feeling about racism here that in many ways has its own definition in relation to other countries and globally other places where people live. And so a lot of times, it seems to people that Americans are talking about racism. It seems like it's such a big subject and we're always talking about it. But that's because we still live with it in many, many ways, both blatant ways and ways that are much more subdued. And I think that when we come to a certain gaming space, there are certain things that when we come into those spaces, we do come in with, we have a certain form of anonymity when we come in, and we look for neutrality. We look for just being treated just like everyone else and being treated fairly. And when someone distinguishes something outside of that, or decides to make that an issue within that space of where we want neutrality, obviously it becomes a problem. So let me stop there and get you guys' feedback on these two in particular, profanity and racism. And Fast Card, I'll go with Cap this time because I think you went first last time. We'll go with Cap and then I'll come to Fast Card.
Yeah, I'll be fairly quick. My MMO space has to have zero tolerance for racism. Period. Profanity, exclamatory profanity, I have room for. Profanity as it's used to debase and dehumanize somebody else, I have zero tolerance for. To be an N-word in the United States is to be unsafe, unprotected, subject to random hostility and violence and hated for who you are. Right? And so there is no room for that type of communication for me in any setting where we're supposed to be building community or be a community. I'm relatively straightforward about that. Star Citizen is a global game, right? And so there are diminishments that manifest in other spaces and places that I'm going to be entirely ignorant to, right? I am not a master of the racial discourse between tribes in Afghanistan, like the Pashtun and the Hazara or whatever, right? But those things exist, right? And they are just as deeply felt as the racism here in the United States, right? There's going to have to be some cultural competence on the part of CIG to create global spaces where everybody is welcome and not diminished. So, and that's work, but that's good work. That's the work you're supposed to be doing to build a community. You want to build a universe sim, then you need to have some universality of acceptance. So,
FC?
Yeah, captured it very eloquently. I feel like I've been blessed in that in this community. I don't. Maybe I've experienced racism once, but it most likely from a YouTube comment rather than anything typically really directed at me. When it comes to profanity, I'm a Jew, Griff. Over time, I become more accepting to it, but I don't use it myself. There are some words I use, obviously, but the big five I stay away from. Yeah, so it's okay for other people to use it, but I try not to use it myself. But as far as that's how I feel about profanity and racism.
Yeah. And we're going to wrap this up. We're highlighting these because again, we want to have a positive attitude toward our community, and we want to hopefully help sustain that positive community. And I think it's going to take, the players will be a determining factor in that. They won't solidly determine it, but they do have impact and effect on that. CIG, obviously, Cloud Imperium has a tremendous role in this. As you said, Cap, it is really on them to set the rules, the guidelines, the guardrails, and also do it in such a way, and I wanted to say this too. Fastcart, you talked about this earlier when you talked about the situation that happened at Pyro, where Disco stopped and made a comment about asking people to be better, do better, right? That's an interesting thing because there were some people who felt that was crossing a line. They felt that these are grown people. They can do what they want to do. You tell them that they can do what they want to do in the game, and now you're telling them to not do certain things in the game, right? Now this is going to be a choice thing for people, and God knows I don't want to sound like I'm preaching, but I probably am a little bit. I think that what Disco said, one of the other things he said, Fast Car, he said you have a choice. I think that's what a lot of it was about. And you're not constrained. You don't have to do some things. You can choose to do other things. And it doesn't mean that you can choose to do nothing. It goes back to what you said earlier, Captain Serious Fun, is that you can choose to do something else. You don't have to be boring, right? You can choose to find something else that's exciting. There's a universe out there. Challenge yourself to do that. One of the things I do, and I love doing with practicing PvP, we haven't done this with our group recently in a while, but I like when I PvP with my friends, when we split up into groups and we go at each other, just like as if it was somebody I didn't know, because afterward we all come together and talk about how great it was to kill each other. I can't have that conversation with a stranger, right? But I can have that with my friends, right? My friends who are just as capable and competent as I, not having to pick on the person who maybe is new or is just learning the game mechanics, right? But, as a community manager, as Disco, I could understand him in a way trying to speak out to the consciousness of people, but it's sad that that's not enough, that there also needs to be that mechanic side, the technical side that needs to come alongside that. And I know there may be some people who figure we don't need to hear no preaching from Disco, just make the game, put the guardrails in, and they may feel that way, and that's good. But I think that is the subconscious way of building community, and then there's the conscious way of building community. And I think that both
and he was respecting the players by starting with them.
Yes.
They didn't start with the paddle,
the mechanics,
and the fence.
Yeah.
They started with, a little bit of Samuel Beckett. Try again, fail better, right? And then if they have to go to something else, they're gonna be like, we talked to y'all about this,
right.
So
Yeah.
I liked that approach.
Yeah. It was definitely it was different. And I, you know, again, as we wrap this up, gang, keeping the community. That's what we're about. How do we keep the community? And hopefully you guys enjoyed this conversation here today. We once again want to say thank you to our subscribers, our supporters, our financial backers, Patreon, YouTube. Listen, you know, this was supposed to be a 30-minute conversation, 35-minute. I'm sorry, it became
play it on
1.1
2 times speed, then you get it 30 minutes.
and read the closed captions. And you know, as a matter of fact, Griff, let's just do the show over. I think I can make my responses shorter next time.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Well, we're at 1 hour and 25 minutes, just over that. So we just want to wrap this up and say, I want to say thank you to Captain Serious Fun and Fast Car both for being here. We're going to, this comes out at the beginning of the month, right? It should be out June 1st. That'll be this Saturday. Hopefully you guys will enjoy it. We'd love to hear your comments. Please feel free to drop them in there.
Drop them below.
Yep. And as always, we're going to sign off with our typical Cap. Why don't you kick us off?
Peace.
Love.
And soul. We'll see you guys later. Take care.